Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kelly Jessup, and I'm the Assistant Director for Digital Learning at Yale School of Management, Executive Education. Hope you're doing well, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us for this introduction to Yale's CPWA prep course, which is called Wealth Management, Theory and Practice. This is one of two online financial certification programs we offer. It's modeled after our successful CIMA online program, which is Investment Management, Theory and Practice. Our program director, Jim Dobbs, was instrumental in creating both programs, so he knows them really well. We ask you to please engage with us during this webinar and don't hesitate to ask questions. Jim is very knowledgeable, and this is your opportunity to pick his brain. We may hold questions, but we will do our best to answer all of them by the end of the webinar. To ask questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and please use chat if you have any technical issues. So now I'd like to introduce our program director. Jim Dobbs is CPWA certified. He's also CFP and CIMA certified. He was a financial advisor for over 25 years and ran his own RIA practice before retiring from it to work full-time in his financial education company. Jim has worked with different certifying bodies and universities for the last 20 years, helping to build and manage financial certification programs. More importantly, though, Jim has had extensive experience with the Investments and Wealth Institute, which is, of course, the certifying body. He personally helped create the CPWA certification and has served IWI in many roles, including as chair of IWI's Technical Advisory Board. Jim directed and taught in the classroom version of this CPWA course for many years and has now partnered with us to bring his expertise and enthusiasm to Yale and in turn to you. You'll see he's a passionate guy and he's committed to success, and he measures his success based on yours. Please welcome Jim Dobbs.
Well, thank you very much, Kelly. I was going to say see and hear me, okay, but it's just hear me, apparently.
Yep, the audio is coming through just fine.
All right, great. Well, welcome, everyone. As Kelly mentioned, we're having a little bit of video trouble here in Singapore, which I'm here this week. But at least you can hear me. And so that's probably the most important thing. Well, not probably, that is for sure. So yeah, welcome. And we'll spend about an hour. Just depends on the amount of questions you have. Kelly encouraged you to engage with us, and I do as well. Look, there are no silly questions. There are times where that's not the case, but right now there are no silly questions about the certification, about the Yale program. If you have something that's specific to you and your situation, you'll see my email and contact information a couple of times throughout the presentation. Feel free to shoot me a personal line, and we can talk about your specific case, where you are in your career, like if you're still considering whether this is the best certification for you right now, and that kind of thing. But if you're thinking at all, this is a question that I want to throw out there. Go ahead and put it out there. Kelly may wait on some of them because she knows I'm going to hit some of these topics, but go ahead and put those out there. All right. So as Kelly mentioned, we are not the certifying body. I think most of you know that by now, but we are an education provider, one of the registered education providers of CPWA programming, and we also offer test prep within our program. So you won't need to do anything else as you go through the process, and I'll show you the process in just a minute. If you choose Yale, then you're going to go through the education course first, and then we're going to have you take a deep dive into the test prep, and I'll show you that in a minute. But IWI, Investments and Wealth Institute, they are your certifying body. If you haven't been to their website, you really need to spend some time on it because they administer the certification exam. They manage the certification. You'll pay your dues going forward to keep your certification and report your continuing education credits. For those of you keeping score at home, that's 40 hours every 2 years, just like CIMA, a little bit more than CFP. For those of us who are CFPs as well, it's 30 hours every 2 years. By the way, small but very important point in that regard, you can double and triple dip, but you can quadruple dip if you've got even more certifications, designations, like I do. So if I have 40 CIMA, CE requirements every 2 years, 40 for CPWA, 30 for CFP, a couple of other designations I hold as well. Well, I'm going to do CE, continuing education, that meets as many of those certifying body requirements as possible. That way, when I go through a program and I get 5 or 10 hours, I'm applying it to each one of those designations. So that's what you're going to want to do. Just save yourself time and to keep yourself from having to do CE your entire year. Anyway, go to IWI's website and find a lot of great information about the organization there. Their CPWA and SEMA certifications are both accredited at the highest level. It's one of the reasons I got involved. It's one of the reasons we offer the CPWA and SEMA programs at Yale, is they are ANSI accredited. It's a global ISO standard for professional certifications. It's very important to us. I think it ought to be very important to you as well. All right, so if you didn't know, IWI is still offering some scholarships. And as you can see here, they're not small. So if you think by looking over the left side of the page there that any of these might apply, then it's worth 10 or 15 minutes. It's a pretty short application form. I would do that first before applying for candidacy. Now, the only drawback in my mind is not the 10 or 15 minutes it takes you to fill out the scholarship form. It's that it can take a couple of weeks for them to get back to you on this one. Applying for candidacy only takes about a week for them to run your background check, and I'll walk you through that in a minute. But on the scholarships, it's more like a couple of weeks. So you want to go ahead and get on that. In fact, some of you might go ahead and just pull that up on another screen and start filling that out while I'm rambling on. But again, at $1,000 to $5,000, yeah, I think that's worth it. All right, so let's talk about the certification a little bit. I want to answer a few kind of common questions that I get regarding CPWA certification, how it's different from CFP certification. And I've got four of kind of the biggies here. In CFP juxtaposed really to CPWA, and SEMA juxtaposed to CFA. And CFA, I'll just hit that one first. That's probably the second most widely known next to CFP. It's really for institutional portfolio managers and securities analysts, in my opinion. For those of us mere mortals who are just financial advisors, important as we are, or think we are, to our clients, then I think CFA is a bit of overkill, and you certainly don't need that level of quantitative analysis skills to be successful in our business. So CFP, Certified Financial Planner, is really kind of anything and everything financial planning. Now, it does depend on the program that you go through. There are over 300 registered courses and programs for CFP certification. So the quality and the depth you get is certainly going to vary, but most of them are really set up to expose you to the content at a basic level, in my opinion, and then help you get through the exam. It takes about 18 months, and it only takes about 6 months to get through SEMA or CPWA, according to the student surveys or the participant surveys we send out to our candidates who go through our program as they work towards certification. And let me take this opportunity right now to say that's not because the SEMA and CPWA exams are easier. I do not think that they are. I think they're actually a little more difficult than CFP. That being said, CFP covers a lot more material than CPWA in this case. CPWA is a deeper dive in the content that you would traditionally see in a CFP program, but it's more technical, it's more tax focused, and it's really meant to focus on those of you working with high net worth clients. And let's just say high net worth client is, say, $5 million, $10 million and up. It's really not targeted for ultra high net worth, $50, $100 million, where you're trying to help your client figure out whether they buy that plane or lease it. We're going to leave that kind of thing for another program. But for your $5 to $50 million client, yeah, this is what CPWA curriculum was designed to tackle. So we're just going to take a deeper dive in a subset of CFP topics, if you want to think about it that way. So 6 months, yeah, you get in and you're spending 10 hours a week, and I'll kind of break down what you can probably expect to put on your scheduler as you try to map all this out. But yeah, 6 months is probably a pretty good accurate starting place, and then I'll give you some variations on that as well. So again, not a knock on CFP. I love those marks. I have it myself, and I think those are great on the kind of foundational or fundamental issues. But when you're dealing with a client who's selling a $25 million business and $18 million of their net worth is wrapped up in that business, you want to be a little smart about their closely held business owner needs. help them in transition, work with the CPAs and attorneys and valuation people, and be part of that conversation. Obviously, then when you get the liquidation event, you're in a really good position, no matter what you sell, services or products, to help them with the next step. All right, so CPWA certification prereqs. So a bachelor's degree, or if you don't have a bachelor's degree, it's CIMA, RMA, CFA, CFP, CHSC, or CPA. So there is a workaround if you don't have a bachelor's degree. You got to hold one of these certifications. Do need to pass a background check. So when you do your candidacy application, they will run your background. And I think that's a very wise thing to do. I wish all certifying bodies would do that. It's again one of the reasons that I'm involved with this organization, because they take that very seriously. And then 5 years of experience in the financial services field. Now, that doesn't mean wealth planning or wealth management. It doesn't even mean financial planning per se. It's in financial services. So if you've been in insurance or investments for 5 years or longer, that's probably going to suffice. It doesn't have to be that broad-based or again, specific to wealth management. That being said, the 5 years is a hard and fast. The good news for any of you who don't have your 5 years yet is they will allow you to begin the process. The 5 years is really a prereq, not to beginning the process, but to ending the process. So we do have a handful of people in our program at any given time. Normally we have 500 or 600 people in the process. And so we may have 10 or maybe no more than 20 at any time that say have 2, 3, 4 years of experience. They haven't quite hit that 5 years. They're going ahead and working through the coursework and then getting ready and passing their certification exam, which they're allowed to take. And then the only thing left in that scenario is they've got to hit their 5-year anniversary. So they just can't use the mark until they check that last box, the 5 years. So hopefully that helps any of you who are like, I'm not quite at 5 years yet. Can I start? Now, that being said, here's one of the offers I'll make to you today is if you have questions like you're not at 5 years yet and you're like, I want to make sure I'm not biting off more than I can chew. Should I start with CFP? Should I start with CHFC, something a bit more foundational? If you want to send me an email at jim@dobbseducation or jim.dobbs@yale.edu, and you'll see those come up a couple more times in the presentation. Yeah, happy to schedule a Zoom or a phone call with you to discuss your particulars, because as much as I'd love for you to come into our program, I want you to be ready for it. And this is a deep dive. This is definitely somewhere between intermediate, and a lot of this material is actually advanced. So if you're new to this business, this may not be the best place for you to start. So I just wanted to give you a heads up there. All right, a couple more slides, and then we'll see if we've got early questions. All right, here's the process. It's not that challenging or difficult. As I mentioned, before you even hit number 1 there, you probably want to go with the scholarship application and see if you get one of those scholarships for $1,000 to $5,000. But regardless, you've done that, and now you're ready to really formally start the process. You submit your certification candidacy application through your certifying body. That's IWI. We have links on our website to where you can apply, or you could just go straight to IWI's website, pull up the CPWA drop down in their main menu bar, and then on the very first page there, it'll say apply here when you're ready. So that's how you're going to apply. They will run a background check. Once they approve you, they'll reach out and say, hey, Jim, congratulations. You've been approved as a CPWA candidate. And we see here on your application, you chose Yale. And so we're reaching out to let them know that you have been accepted and that you have chosen Yale as your education provider. Takes about a week, as I mentioned earlier, for IWI to process those applications. And then it takes us about a week at Yale to process your application and registration information as well. So you're looking at about 2 weeks, not counting the scholarship check, you know, that whole application process. But once you apply for candidacy, about 2 weeks to get up and running. Okay, so once you get in, you're going to pass the education course, which I'll show you in a minute. You're going to study for your certification exam. Hopefully, you're going to take and pass that on the first attempt. The vast majority of our candidates pass on their first attempt. We're very proud of them for that. They listen to us, they follow our plan once they get to test prep, and they prepare adequately. And again, very few as a percentage actually don't pass on their first attempt. Now, that's not a guarantee. You've got to put in the work. You got to trust the process. And I'll show you a little bit more about that in a minute. Then after that, they send you a confirmation that you passed the certification exam. You sign some licensing paperwork, pay your initial certification fee, which you'll pay every 2 years after that. And then you're done. So pretty simple process. All right, I'm going to let you look at the core topics here because I've covered a lot. I've covered the process. I covered a little bit about CPWA versus CFP and CFA, and we'll see if we've got questions, Kelly.
Okay, yes, we do. So this goes back just a bit to when you were talking about the experience requirement. Would mortgage originator be considered a qualifying financial field?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I'm guessing that it will to some extent. Now, if it's all 5 of your years or that specifically, they may not take all the 5 years. What I would recommend is you to reach out to IWI before you apply. Now, what they're probably going to tell you is, well, you're going to have to apply, and then we'll just submit it to the committee, and then they'll make their determination. But you might get lucky, and they might give you some insight or a little more information that they don't have on their website regarding what qualifies for the experience requirement versus what doesn't. Let's see, let me give you a good name or contact information over at IWI. At least she's been a good resource for us at Yale when we have questions about things over at the certifying body. It's Ashlyn Costley, Ashlen. Ashlyn is her first name. Costley is her second name, Costley. Her email is A and then her last name, Costley at i-w.org. So A Costley at i-w.org. So reach out to Ashlyn and see if she'll give you any insight there. Now, that being said, let me just kind of circle back to something I mentioned before, and maybe you and I need to have an offline conversation as well. If that's the crux of your experience and you have no experience in investments, insurance, asset protection, retirement planning, tax, estate planning, this may not be the program for you right now because this is going to be a super deep dive for you. Now, it still may be worth it. It may be worth it down the road, or it may even be worth it now if you're willing to put in 500 or 1,000 hours to learn this material and get certified. But I want you to have your eyes open as you make this very important decision. So if that means you and I need to have a personal conversation, I'm happy to do that. But good question. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm wondering if you could just take a minute to just kind of share any additional insights you have about the availability of the scholarship funds with IWI. We have someone who's writing in who said they did apply for the scholarship, and the response they got said that the funds have been exhausted because they had too many applications, which of course you can understand how that would be very disappointing. So do we have any other information about that, or
that's a new one. I have not heard that like at all in these 4 or 5 years they've been offering scholarships. So I'm glad you brought that up. I would hope that the certifying body would reach out to us and any other education provider and tell us when the spigot is turned off. So I don't know if it's that or, organizations, especially not-for-profits, have budgets. And so perhaps their scholarship allocation for this quarter or year or whatever is up. That I don't know. But thanks for bringing that up. If for any of the others of you interested, I'd still go ahead and fill that out. Again, it's only going to cost you 10 or 15 minutes of your life and submit it. That being said, I'm going to reach out to my contact over there as the CEO. So I'll reach out to him after we're done here just to see if they have exhausted all their scholarships. But that would be huge, huge news and quite a bit surprising. But thanks for the heads up, just in case that's happened.
Yeah, and if the person who wrote that message wants to reach out to Jim or me separately afterward, we're happy to just kind of share our findings on that or
Yeah,
any other
absolutely.
information we have. So please do reach out to one of us directly. And we're happy
Absolutely.
to investigate that. Okay, we do have a question on the CEs. So regarding the education requirement counting towards CE credit for CFP CEs, is the credit for CEs given at the completion of the total coursework or periodically along the way as each section is completed?
Good question. Great question. So yeah, you will get 28 CEs if you're a CFP for completing the course at Yale, not becoming certified, and it's not incremental. So it's kind of like the former, not the latter of your question, but there's that extra. So just pass the course, not the certification exam. Just by passing the course at Yale, you'll get 28 hours of CE for your CFP CE requirement. So that knocks out all but 2. Why is it not 2? Look, it'd be way more than even 30 hours for the amount of time you're going to spend passing this course. That being said, the limit for 2 years at CFP board, of course, is 30, and 2 of those hours have to be ethics and ethics specific to their ethics code. So that's why the 28 hours. So yeah, once you pass our course, then you will be qualified for the 28 hours of CE. Great question.
Okay, looks like we are all caught up on questions. So great questions, everyone. Thank you for submitting them and bringing things to our attention. Please do continue to send your questions. And I think for now, we're ready to move on. Thanks, Jim.
Excellent. Yep, great questions. Keep them coming. Okay, so core topics. This is really, really important. And here's again my email information at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to reach out to me about anything, really. Happy to discuss with you. Kelly and I want to make sure that you make the right decision. A, is CPWA certification right for you right now in your career? It's going to really help you in your current practice, in your current business, and moving forward. And then number 2, is Yale the right fit? If it is, we want you to come. But if it's not, it's a big investment of your time. The money is one thing. I would argue your opportunity cost is your biggest cost in making a decision. So we really want to help you in that regard. Now, speaking of helping you in that regard, pertaining to whether CPWA certification is right for you, I think one of the biggest things, other than just making sure the certifying body is respected and legitimate, because there are, in my opinion, unofficially, if you will, there are a lot of designations out there that are really not worth much. Now, they might be entertaining, they might get you some CE, they might even offer you up a little bit of knowledge, but the designation itself is really just not significant. This one is, but you still want to make sure the content is there. And so you've been staring at this little honeycomb that IWI uses for a lot of their graphics these days. And these are the core domains: human dynamics, wealth management strategies. And that one is what you would typically think of: tax, investments, asset protection, that kind of thing. And then we go through specialization of you working with your high net worth, closely held business owners. I mentioned the business owner, selling a business, and that's a large part of their net worth. Or you have executives at large corporations, publicly traded companies typically, and a lot of their net worth is wrapped up in concentrated stock, or even options, stock options before that. Well, there are a lot of rules, a lot of tax, a lot goes into the strategy of unwinding those positions and getting to a better, more diversified position. There's even a little bit of psychology to that, as you can imagine, as well. And then retirement in CPWA is a little different than CFP land, if you will. Most of retirement planning in CFP land, in my mind, is about getting to retirement, accumulation plans. What's my number? How do I calculate that? How can I do a capital needs analysis to figure that out? Well, with CPWA, we're assuming most of your clients that are high net worth are already there. They may not have retired yet, but they have enough money to retire. So on the retirement side, it's about decumulation. How do I take distributions in the best possible way, both from a tax standpoint, an asset control standpoint, and then a passing assets down to the next generation. So it's a bit of a different focus than we all had when we did CFP back in the day. And then legacy planning, obviously, you've got to 10, 20, $50 million family. They've got 3 kids and 7 or 8 grandchildren, maybe a small business, and only one of the kids works in the business. And then you got distribution issues, and there's a psychology there as well. So that's it kind of in a nutshell, but there's a nice 6 or 7 pager with the full line items, and there are over 500 of them. You need to look at that thoroughly before you make a decision to apply for candidacy through IWI. Why? Because those are the topics you're going to be studying and learning every week as you go through the process. And I highly recommend you go line by line through that. If you don't have a copy of that longer version, there's my contact information. You can pull it off of our website or their website, but if it's easier just to shoot me an email right now, do that. I'll send you the color-coded 500 line topic list, if you will. And it also has the exam weightings on it. But my point is, you need to go through that longer document, every single line, just asking yourself routinely, is knowing more about this or that going to help me in my practice now? Is knowing more about this going to help me serve my clients better? Is knowing about this going to help me bring in more clients if that's one of my job functions or responsibilities? I think that is one of the most important things you can do with any of these designations. And so you really need to spend a good 10 or 20 minutes at least going through that document to really make sure that this curriculum is a good fit for you. If it's not, then I think, as much as I love this certification, yes, I was at the beginning and helped IWI create this certification, it's not for everybody. And so going through that, spending maybe 15 or 20 minutes is a great exercise. So yeah, shoot me an email. Happy to send you the core topics list and a little bit more information about the program if that's what you'd like. All right. Kind of a cool, I don't use a lot of the graphics from IWI, but this is one that I do like. I think there are a number of reasons why you want to consider certifications like this. And I realize some of you are being told to get this. Some firms actually strongly push this certification. Some of your bosses are just recommending it. And others of your bosses aren't sure or don't even know about it yet because you hadn't brought it up to them. And you still need to convince them to allow you to go for this and or possibly reimburse you for this. IWI does, as you would imagine, they would. They have some nice third-party information by IT Group, Cerulli, maybe one more that I never can remember. And it just goes through the benefits of higher-end, more elite certifications like CPWA, including compensation, the one number 2 there. CPWAs definitely make more than CFPs. CFPs make more than those who don't have a CFP. There is a pecking order here. Now, I'm not going to get into causation and all that, so it's a rather simple analysis, but they do have a nice breakdown in the industry of these different certifications on their website. It's actually a white paper. You've got to kind of go through some of their research to get to it. But I think it's very helpful, including if you still need to get your boss or superiors sign off on this. Certainly, you're going to differentiate yourself from your competitors. A lot of people don't want to spend the time or the energy to do something like this. They're going to rely on their raw talent, their sales skills, their communication skills, etc., and just get by on the technical. But if you want to really become competent, you need to do programs like this. And it's going to hurt a little bit because the tax is pretty heavy, for example. That being said, when I was an advisor for 27 years as well, when I went to the family meetings with the attorneys and the CPAs every year with my bigger clients, it's not like they were cutting me any slack. I needed to know these things, and I needed to know them well enough to be more than conversational. I didn't need to replace the CPA or the attorney, but I needed to be able to interact with them. And then after those meetings, when my clients, well, half of them anyway, easily would say, no idea what half of that was all about. Can we go back to your office or go out to dinner and debrief? And we need to get you to that speed so that you can have those meaningful conversations with your clients about the 3 different trusts that were just recommended, and your clients, eyes glazed over immediately. So that's the level we need to get you to. Look, the one that I'm most excited about is number 3 there. When I talk to you guys after the fact and see you at conferences and other events throughout the year, which is one of the more fun things that I get to do each year, it's your confidence. Confidence goes up with your clients. goes up with prospects for sure. And then in CPWA land, if you will, it really goes up with the attorneys and the CPAs that you're working with all the time with your clients. Those are some of the most exciting benefits that I hear from you guys as former students and now CPWA designees. Okay, so I think it's important that you know what a certifying body is trying to do. They're trying to certify you as competent in wealth management. They're trying to hold you out to the public as more of an expert in these areas. Again, not at a legal level or a tax level, but an expert wealth manager. And what your education provider is trying to do. We're trying to give you comprehensive coverage in all of those 500. Now, we're going to do that, as you're going to see, but we're not going to do it all in the education course. We're not going to do it all in test prep. Some of it's a mix and match, and I'll explain the difference here in just a few slides, but we're going to cover all of that content. The one that's probably most important is the middle one there, although that one is easily the hardest to measure, and that is to help you build skills, knowledge, tools, resources, all those things to help you make a difference now in your practice. Richard Joyner, who helped me create this certification, gosh, 15 years, it's probably longer than that now, but whatever it was, 15 years ago or so, that was always his big thrust at the committee level was, let's not just make this an academic exercise. There are plenty of those out there. Let's not just create another certification. Let's create something that will make a difference in their practices, that will help change their lives, if you will. And I know that sounds kind of big and grandiose, but yeah, that's one of our goals here in the Yale program. And then last but not least, of course, it's pass the test. I did all these exams. I was there in your seat once upon a time ago with a full practice and 4 kids and all that stuff. So I know how that goes. It's busy. And eventually, as you get more and more into the study process, eventually it's going to be like, okay, I've been doing this for 80 hours, 140 hours, 200 hours, whatever it is. I just need to take and pass this test. So as you'll see in just a minute, as you get closer and closer to your testing date, it's going to just be more and more about the exam. So in that last month and that last 2 months, if you will, it's all going to be about the exam. Again, bigger picture, altruistically, it's not all about the exam. It's about how can you change your practice? How can you get to the next level in your career? But eventually this becomes a very practical exercise. Let's get you through that test. All right, this is about flexibility and convenience. I wanted to start the first fully online program, and Yale ended up being the best place to do that for a number of reasons. And I didn't want it just to be online. I wanted it to be asynchronous, and I wanted you to be able to start when you want to. So we don't have like, okay, we're doing a spring cohort and the summer cohort and the fall cohort. Nope, you just look at your schedule and it's ongoing registration. And so when the timing works for you, you jump in. And I think timing is important because you've got a year, and I'll share some more details on that in just a minute. But you figure out when the next few months don't look any worse than any other months for you during the year, and then you just jump in. Everything's on demand. So you're going to study whenever and really wherever you want. Everything's on demand and everything can be downloaded. Copy, save, print. Just don't share it with anybody. You're a candidate and participant in the Yale program. You paid those fees. It's just for you. As long as we don't see excessive sharing out there, especially in online sites, then we're going to keep it open for you guys to download anything. So you could just download the videos, for example, and just either watch them or listen to them, MP4 or MP3, on the train or on the plane or on your commute or whatever. Point is, it's flexible. So if you want to study on Wednesday nights or Sunday mornings or Tuesday afternoons or whatever, go for it. We've got nice guardrails, if you will, scheduling recommendations on how to get through all this material in a reasonable way. Excuse me. And then it's just up to you to plug it in and go fast or slow, however you want to get through it. All right, study time expectations, really important, about 100 to 200 hours if you're an experienced advisor. And I don't mean 10, 15, 20 years. But if you've got a handful of years under your belt in financial planning and or wealth management, in any kind of broad-based, doesn't have to be comprehensive, but broad-based way, meaning you've been dealing with at least 2 or 3 of the major areas of personal finance, investments, insurance, retirement planning, tax, estate, etc., then 100 to 200 hours is very reasonable. That's a very good guess. And if you don't know, just go right down the middle and just ballpark it to be about 150. That being said, we do have people get through this in a matter of weeks. That's an exceptional, rare situation, but it can happen. Why? If they already have some knowledge and experience coming in the door, they're a really great student, studier and test taker, and they've got the time to pull this off, then, because it's asynchronous, they can go as fast as they want to. But others clearly takes hundreds of hours, as I mentioned to you earlier, one of you who was asking about your experience and would that qualify. If you haven't seen a lot of this before, it's going to take you many, 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 many hundreds of hours to get through this. This is very deep and technical information. And here's one example of that. In CFP programs, myself included, I think I probably studied 2 or 3 different kinds of trusts, and they were just a basic baseline trust, including an ILET. But in this program, you're going to study like 22 or 24 different specific types of trusts, not just how they're structured and when they should be used or could be used. It's the tax ramifications. It's the asset protection ramifications. It's the estate and control issues as well. So it's just a different level of study in that regard. So yeah, it could take you less than 100. It could take you more than 500. All depends on your own experience and your study habits, test taking skills, etc. But I think the bottom line, it was really important when we set this up, is you can finish this as quickly or slowly as you want to. It's really up to you. And I did not want to hold anybody back who wanted to get through it fast. I didn't want the people that were going through it slower for whatever reason to hold them up and frustrate them. And I didn't want the people going so fast that they would freak out and make all the other people nervous if they were in their cohort. So no cohorts in that particular regard. All right, a little bit of nuts and bolts here. 7,300, a little bit under that. 7,295 is the current price. That does change. We've been doing this a long time, and we've seen that bounce up and down, and mostly up. They do have scholarships unless they've run out. But again, that would be news to us. We have not heard that. That'd be a pretty big announcement, I would think, but we're going to reach out and confirm that after we finish this. And there are discounts if you're with certain firms and whatever. Now, we don't have any information on what they're discounting and who they do that for and whatever. So you'll need to reach out to them. And again, Ashlyn Costley should be a great resource if you had questions on whether your firm gets a discount or not. As I mentioned, no registration dates. That being said, as I alluded to earlier, that $72.95 pays for your candidacy fees. It pays for all the Yale materials and the course and the test prep, and one attempt on the certification exam, which if you're like most of our candidates in the past, it'll only take you one time. But you've got 365 days to pull all that off. Again, at 100 to 200 hours, you're studying 10 hours a week. That's 40 hours a month. That's 120 after 3 months and 160 hours after 4 months. Yeah, you should definitely finish this within 6 months. But we decided to give you more than twice that in terms of what your registration fee pays for. That being said, you can pay another couple $1,000s. I think it's $2,250 or somewhere in there for an extra year of access to our material if you need it. Most people don't need it, of course. That being said, there's a workaround. Now, some people are fully reimbursed by their firms for thousands of dollars for programs like this every single year. So they're like, yeah, I'll just pay the two plus grand and get another year. The workaround for those of you who might be independent like I was for all those years and you're paying out of pocket yourself or your own business is paying for it, is just pass the course and then download all of our test prep. You could pass the course in a couple of weekends. That's not what we prescribe. That's not how we want you to rush through it. But you could literally do that and then just download all the test prep and study on your own until you were ready to take the test if you ran out of time. So even that 1 year, there's a workaround in that regard. All right. In the old days, we could, but we cannot share our specific pass rates. But you can go. Look. I wish we could. Let me just say that again. I wish we could share our very specific pass rates, but they don't allow us to do that anymore. And so you need to go on the CPWA tab, the cert exam page, subpage on IWI's website. You can see the pass rates. Now, the majority of candidates do choose Yale. So we make up a majority of that pass rate that you're going to see on the website there. And that ought to at least give you a little bit of comfort. Again, it's not a freebie. It's not a free pass. You are going to have to do the work. You're going to have to trust us that we know how to guide you through that. But if you do, things should work out well. You'll at least have a very good shot at passing on your first attempt. All right, let's talk about a little bit about the course and the test prep, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. And actually, let's see if there are any questions now, and as y'all stare at what we have for you in terms of the course.
Just checking Q&A. Yeah, looks like no questions right now. So I think we can go ahead and move on. Thank you.
All right. So as I mentioned before, we're going to put everything together. We're going to do this a little differently than our friends at Chicago booth. And I was the program director when I took the program to Ted Snyder at Chicago booth. Seems like a long time ago. And for the first 10 years, I was a program director there. Then the board asked us to figure out a way to do an online program. They really weren't interested. And Dean Snyder was then at Yale. So I ended up just moving over to Yale. But one thing I learned was I thought it was better to do the course first and then test prep after. And our friends at Chicago just do it a little differently. They kind of do the test prep and the pre-study before you go to class, and then they do the class and then expect you to be ready for the exam. I think it works better the other way around. So I'm going to have you do the course first. And this has worked really well for the 6 or 7 years we've been doing this and the high pass rates. So you go in, and I don't even want you thinking about the exam. You're going to do the course first. You're going to watch somewhere between 30 and 35 hours of lecture, just like if you were in the classroom in New Haven. It's just we're all in the Yale recording studio doing our lectures there. And it's all on demand. You can speed up or slow down, watch them when you want to, and all that good stuff, as I mentioned before. And you're going to take a test online in the platform, not proctored. Just want to make sure you're paying attention, right? Want to give you a little bit of incentive and motivation to do what we're asking you to do at the course level. And that is, don't rush through it. Just watch those videos like if you were sitting there in class. Take good notes. Don't worry about whether it's on the test or not. That's what the whole test prep's for. Just try to nail down these, I would call them fundamentals. They're fundamentals for CPWA curriculum, but they're really quite advanced in the industry. You need to nail down these strategies, these challenges, these potential solutions, these trust structures. You need to try to nail these down at the course level because that's your deepest and most thorough explanation. Take the 11 tests, take them as many times as you want to pass. As soon as you've passed your 11th test, you've completed the course. We get an email that says, hey, Jim passed the course. He's ready to schedule his exam. We send that note over to IWI and let them know that Jim has passed the course and he's eligible to schedule the exam. Now, he, or in this case, me, I'm not ready to take it yet. I'm just eligible to sign up and take it. Now you got to do all the test prep. So at that point, all the test prep in the second section opens up for you. Now that little teaser there, I'm going to step back for a minute. Before that, when you're at the educational course level, you're not even going to be able to dive into any of that. Again, I want you focused on just nailing down the cornerstones, if you will. You do have a custom readings library I put together mostly through CCH material, which is now owned by Wolters Kluwer. And it's a tax estate planning investment library that costs thousands of dollars a year if you want to buy it individually. I've got you access to it as a participant in our program while you're a participant in our program. But what I did, and that's just kind of a bonus, what I really wanted mostly out of the contract we have with them is to put together a custom readings library. Sometimes the video doesn't do it for you for whatever reason. Or you're like, yeah, well, that was a great 8 minutes or 18 minutes, but I want to learn more. Oh, great. There's 22 pages on that in the readings. It's for a deeper dive. You're not going to read the textbook like we all did as undergraduates. You're going to use it as a reading and resource library, if you will. So that's what you're going to be learning from. You're going to be learning from the videos. You've got your readings there for the deeper dive, and you've got tests for a little bit of assessment just to warm you up and get you ready for test prep. You'll get your Yale certificate and your CFP and or SEMA credits. If you're a SEMA holder, you'll get CE credits just for passing the course. And then the test prep is going to open up for you. You are going to spend, I can almost guarantee it, for most of you, you're going to spend easily the majority of your time in test prep. So if it takes you between 30 and 40 hours to pass the course, and let's say it's maybe another 100 hours to study for the exam, so clearly you're going to spend more time here. There's about 6 or maybe it's 8 hours of me now walking you through those 500 topics, saying, this is heavily tested. You really need to nail down these next 3 examples and practice questions I have for you right here. These next 2 slides, it's right here in their list, but gosh, they almost never test on it according to our candidates. So just skim over this, look over it quickly. I don't think you'll be tested. And see these next few, these are kind of in the middle. They are tested regularly, but it's not heavy, it's not low, somewhere in the middle. So you need to take these seriously as well. That's just a way to help you narrow your focus and be more efficient in studying those 500 topics for an exam that's only 135 questions long. You'll take about 1,000 practice questions throughout the process. We do have one final mock exam for you at the end. We used to have several mock exams, but nobody was taking the multiple mock exams because of the high pass rate. They were just taking one. That's no bueno. I need you to look at every practice question I have for you. So we've now strewn them throughout, not only the mock exam, but all the practice sets and those test prep slides that I walk you through as well. It's really, really important. I'm a big believer in quality over quantity when it comes to test prep. About 1,000 questions is more than ample. Just need to really focus on those questions I guide you towards. So that's what that looks like. We do offer you 30, 60, and 90-day test prep schedules. Most of our candidates report starting with one of those and then just speeding up or slowing down as they get more comfortable with the process. All right. I always love this slide. She's so happy about taking her test. 135 multiple choice questions, 125 are scored, so they got 10 beta unscored items in there. You've got 4 hours to take the exam. You can either take it at a Pearson VUE testing center, or ProctorU has online testing that is available. Now we give you some guidance there. I would rather you take it in person for a number of reasons, including higher pass rates, and that is according to IWI. But we give you some more information in our program on which one to do. Calculator, you will need a financial calculator. I'm going to say no more than about half a dozen questions would you really need a financial calculator on to pass this test. A regular calculator would do, but only financial calculators are allowed. So you need to go get one. Here's the current list of financial calculators allowed. I've highlighted the 2 most popular ones. So if you don't have one, just go out and probably get either one of these. I think you'll be just fine. And then at the very bottom of the screen there, TVM Calcs is a great website if you don't have a calculator, or if you need to practice and just get kind of caught up before you get into our program or in our program. You spend about an hour on your financial calculator using the examples in that website. You'll be golden. You'll be good to go. All right, where's my help? Very important. So this is meant to be autonomous, self-study, distance learning, but you do have help because I've been doing this for so long. I kind of know where some of the issues are going to come up, just having dealt with thousands of candidates through the years. And so I can get ahead of that with extra notes, extra guidance, et cetera, and extra explanation in the different course videos, et cetera. You do have Canvas help if you ever have technical issues, and then you have Yale and Dobbs education staffs available 8 to 5 Eastern, Monday through Friday for things like how much time do I have left? I forgot, or my login information, stuff like that. So discussion board is excellent in this particular program. That's really going to serve as a great FAQ for you as well. So I leave up the best, most thorough discussions regarding technical issues in that discussion board. So the very first thing you're going to want to do if you have a technical question like, I just can't remember the difference between grits and grats, and is that even important? Yeah, you're going to want to go to the discussion board in the estate planning section, do a little quick Control F search once you get into the discussion board and check that out. Because as you can see here, you're limited to 12 content related questions. Now that's not login and administrative. You get as many of those questions as you want, but we need to hold you accountable, but we still need to offer you help. And so one of our instructors is there for you when you have one of your 12 lifelines, as we call them. That being said, we beta tested this in the early year or two, and it's worked out great. 12 is actually too many, to be honest. Only about 2.5% of you actually ask all 12 of your questions. And so, yeah, 12 questions for most of you is going to be enough. That being said, the caveat is, if you're a person for whatever reason, and doesn't matter what it is, if you're like, yeah, I might have 12 questions in each section, I just really want that level of interaction with my faculty, well, then this is not the program for you. We're not priced or set up that way, and I want to be very candid about that. So it's no big deal, not an issue. It's just that, yeah, I just want to be candid about that. We would not be a good fit for you in that situation. Okay, a great faculty. For sake of time, I'll let you go on the website and read more about Toby and Michael Kitsis and John Nersessi and Richard Joyner, Steve Siegel. It's just a fabulous crew that we've put together for this. We take the feedback and scores very, very seriously. We're going to survey you after you've tested, pass or fail. We're not perfect, but we're trying all the time to make this the absolute best program that it can be, and the best that's on the market. So this has all been just trying to help you figure out, is CPWA right for you right now? In terms of programming, is flexibility, customizing your learning plan, covering all 500 plus topics. That's all we've been trying to help you figure out. But you do need to have the motivation and self-discipline. Look, I'm going to send you through Canvas weekly announcements for your first like 3 or 4 months, just to try to keep you on track. We're going to send you emails as well, but you've still got to have the personal motivation and discipline to pull this off. This will be challenging even for the more experienced advisors. But if all of that's a fit for you, then we would love to have you come join us at Yale. As I mentioned before, you can get to the application page either by going to our website or IWI's website, but it is going to formally be through their website when you apply for candidacy. And then here's our contact information. So with that, I know we started a little bit late, but I think we've got time for a question or two.
We do. We have just a couple minutes here. So it doesn't look like we have any questions at the moment, but we're happy to stay on until the top of the hour here if anyone.
Yeah. And
has
remember,
any
go ahead and
questions.
yeah, don't even hesitate. Shoot me an email if you want a copy of that more detailed topic list. Really important to make sure you're doing the right program. And then if you have any questions, happy to answer those personally as well if you didn't feel comfortable asking those in front of the group today.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything come in. So I think we probably can go ahead and just wrap this up. So yeah, just want to say, thanks again to everyone for joining us, and I appreciate your patience with our technical difficulties today. But I'm happy we were still able to get a chance to connect with you. So as I mentioned, for more information, you can visit our website or reach out to either one of us directly with any questions. We will be sharing the recording and the slides in a few days, and our contact information is on there as well. And again, just to reiterate what Jim said, we of course would love to have you in our program, but it's really important to kind of look through the options and figure out what will work best for you. So thanks again for sharing your time with us, and this concludes our webinar. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.